These are the stories topping the news. Health Minister condemns shooting at JNF Hospital. Government clears the way for law students to graduate. And Bin Laden's son-in-law gets life prison term. Good afternoon and welcome to ZIZ Midday newscast for September 24, 2014. I'm Kyle Berridge. Now the news in detail. Minister of Health, the Honorable Marcella Liburd, has condemned the Monday night shooting at the JNF General Hospital, describing the incident as heinous and a wanton act of violence. In a televised statement on ZIZ Channel 5 Tuesday night, Minister Liburd expressed condolences to the family of the 19-year-old man who eventually succumbed to his injuries.
Last evening, Monday, September 22nd, armed men entered the emergency room of the Joseph N. France General Hospital and opened fire on a client, a young man, while he was waiting to be treated. He sustained multiple gunshot wounds and underwent emergency surgery by our hard-working surgical team, but later succumbed to his injuries. The Ministry of Health extends condolences to his family. We in the Ministry of Health, and indeed the entire nation, are shocked and dismayed at this wanton act of violence.
She went on to say that measures have been put in place to avoid a repeat of this sort of incident.
The Ministry wishes to assure the hospital staff, all health workers, students, and the general public that we will work closely with the security forces to ensure that this heinous act does not happen again. With immediate effect, we have increased the presence of the security forces at the hospital on a 24-hour basis. Security cameras will be installed and the visiting policy would be strictly adhered to. Other security measures would be put in place in the short and medium term.
Ms. Liburd continued that the act of violence would not deter the hospital staff from providing quality health care. She further gave a commitment that measures will be put in place at the hospital to create a safer environment for both staff and clients.
The Dastardly Act will not discourage us from continuing to provide quality health care to residents and visitors alike. We take this opportunity to reassure the general public that the measures put in place would create a safer environment for all healthcare providers and all those who access care at or visit the Joseph N. France General Hospital.
On Monday evening, two gunmen pursued Kyle Herbert onto the JNF Hospital premises and opened fire on him. Herbert passed away late Tuesday afternoon. The police are asking anyone with information about this incident to contact the Violent Crime Unit at 662-9336, the nearest police station, or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-8477. The country's Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Earl Asim Martin, is pleased with the strides made in development in St. Kitts and Nevis. Minister Martin said, while he has accomplished much during his time in government, he and his team will not rest on their laurels. He pledged to continue to improve the lives of the nation's people.
Area of housing, we have seen a government that has constructed thousands of houses over the last couple of years. The distribution of homes to our people all around the island in every single community has been touched. And we have also seen the infrastructure development in the Federation over the last years. In every community, we have seen the improvement in our telecommunication system. We have seen improvement in our distribution of electricity within the various communities, reliable supply of that. We have also seen our road network and improvement in our road network in St. Kitts. And as our country continues to grow, we'll definitely see more improvement in these specific areas.
Minister Martin's comments came as he delivered independence greetings to the nation during a televised cabinet session. St. Kitts' Ministry of Tourism and International Transport recently won the Destination Stewardship Award at a ceremony during the Caribbean Tourism Organization's State of the Industry Commerce in St. Thomas. Patricia Martin, Permanent Secretary, and Danielle Taylor-Williams, Assistant Secretary, accepted the award on behalf of the ministry. The Destination Stewardship Award goes to a destination which successfully demonstrates a program of sustainable tourism while incorporating social, cultural, environmental, and economic benefits. Upon receiving the award, Martin said it was a great honor accepting the prestigious award, as St. Kitts is working very hard to achieve sustained growth in visitor arrivals without adversely affecting the country's cultural heritage and natural resources. In regional news, 4 Antiguan students who just completed studies at Normal Manley Law School in Jamaica no longer have to worry about graduating on September 27th. Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance, Senator Lennox Weston, said this is because the government paid a portion of the arrears owed to the Council of Legal Education. He also said the government and the council reached an agreement on a payment plan. The minister did not disclose details of the sum paid and the terms of the payment plan. 2 weeks ago, the council wrote the students advising them they would not be allowed to graduate or collect their certificates of legal education unless they each paid the full $8,000 to the council. They were being called upon to pay because governments had defaulted on the financial contributions for more than a year under the United Progressive Party UPP administration. The government of the Bahamas is looking to expand local sand mining operations. As it seeks to diversify the economy, the Agricultural Minister, Honorable V. Alfred Gray, touched on the issue, explaining how the Bahamas can benefit from such a move. We hear more in this report.
There's much commercially to be gained from sand mining, rock mining, etc. Our country needs to expand its economic base. And whatever is good for the Bahamas, I think the government ought to explore possibilities.
Internationally, Suleiman Abu Ghath, a son-in-law of Osama bin Laden, has been sentenced to life in prison in New York following his conviction on terrorism charges. He is the closest associate of Osama bin Laden to be tried in the U.S. since the September 11 attacks. Abu Ghath's defense team says they plan to appeal the verdict against him. We hear more in this report.
Given the maximum sentence of life imprisonment for conspiring to kill Americans. His lawyer said that was no surprise.
Kids that watch videos that show decapitation and do nothing more, or even talk about, quote-unquote, the magic word jihad, get 25 years. So it was no surprise. I'm very optimistic we will be appealing. I'm very optimistic over our chances on appeal. I think that there were significant errors both before the trial and during the course of the trial.
Abu Ghaith admits he was summoned by Osama bin Laden to a cave in the Afghan mountains after al-Qaeda attacked the US in 2001. Bin Laden gave him a set of talking points to spread in videotaped speeches.
But here at the courthouse in New York, Abu Ghaith's lawyers argued he never plotted to kill anyone, and that the prosecution was using the videos to suggest he was a senior leader of al-Qaeda when he'd never even joined the group. Abu Ghaith himself took the stand. He said his speeches were philosophical and religious in nature, intended to foster dialogue with the US.
No evidence was presented to link him to any specific terror plot, but the prosecution said his reference in one video to a storm of aeroplanes targeting the US revealed knowledge of future attacks.
What the government tried to show is that speeches and propaganda by al-Qaeda is a very important way that they recruit people to commit acts of terrorism. But what really struck me was that then once you've made a speech, you become liable for thousands of deaths committed by the organization.
The decision to try Abu Ghaith in civilian court met with opposition in Congress from those who wanted him sent to Guantanamo Bay. But as military trials there flounder, Abu Ghaith is just the latest success for prosecutors. A study by New York University found a conviction rate of 90% in cases invoking terrorism tried in a civilian court. Shihab Ratansi, Al Jazeera, New York.
There is anger in western Aleppo, where Syrians are blaming the U.S. military for the deaths of civilians. Opposition activists say the U.S. was responsible for hitting a residential building, which is not far from a known headquarters branch in Syria. 11 people, including 4 children, were killed. We hear more in this report.
There is anger in western Aleppo. Syrians there are blaming the U.S. military for the deaths of civilians. We can't independently confirm this, but opposition activists say the U.S. was responsible for hitting this residential building, which is not far from a known headquarters of Syria's al-Qaeda branch, the Nusra Front. They say 11 people, including 4 children, were killed. Early on Tuesday, the Obama administration expanded its operations against the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant to Syria. Dozens of airstrikes were carried out on its positions in the north of the country. The U.S. Defense Department did confirm a strike in western Aleppo, but it said the al-Qaeda-affiliated group Khorasan was the target.
My village, Kfardayan, along the border with Syria and Turkey. There is no ISIL positions here, so why did the coalition target civilians with missiles? We have never seen this kind of missiles ever. This is the first time.
The air campaign is part of the U.S. administration's strategy to defeat and destroy ISIL, which controls territory in Iraq and Syria. Many of its fighters have reportedly been killed, but unlike in Iraq, the U.S. does not have any partners on the ground in Syria. ISIL is a strong and well-armed force, and the so-called moderate rebels are no match for them, and the U.S. doesn't recognize the legitimacy of the Syrian government. This is just the beginning of what many people expect to be a long war. Unless you have a force to replace ISIL on the ground, the Syrian government may benefit from the U.S.'s military campaign. It is already benefiting politically by reiterating its long-standing narrative that it is fighting a war on terrorism.
Now the weather. Today skies will be cloudy along with intermittent scattered showers. Winds will blow from the east at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Temperatures will reach a high of 30 degrees and a low of 25 degrees. This evening is also expected to be cloudy along with showers. That's it for ZIZ Midday newscast. Join us at 6:30 and 7 p.m. for the evening news. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carla Berridge.